Hello and welcome to Atheist Torah Study. My name is Emma, and I am the host of Atheist Torah Study, which is almost done. We're almost to the very end, so I'm very excited. This has been really just a year-long project, broken up over 2 years to study the Jewish Torah, which is the principal religious text of Judaism, from the perspective of an atheist. And this week we are on Parshat Eikev, which is the 46th weekly portion of 54. It is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 through 11. Let's see. And what notable happens in the Parsha? 40 years in the wilderness are recalled several times. 7 nations are listed as the people Israel will encounter in Canaan. 10 commandments referenced. The 2 stone tablets are mentioned. The word remember appears numerous times, and the phrase do not forget. Some really well-known passages, Bikrat Hamazon, Deuteronomy 8:10, you shall eat, be satisfied, and bless the Lord your God. Not by bread alone, Deuteronomy 8:3. And the second paragraph of the Shema, V'chayim Shema, Deuteronomy 13 to the 21. So the main themes are remembering God's care, humility, warning against idolatry, love and service of God, reward and consequence. Some atheist takes on Eikev. The Parsha repeatedly warns, when you have eaten and are satisfied, do not forget. An atheist take on this might be really the truth. Yeah, I thought about this. Really, the truth is that our lives are dependent on countless factors, from family and community, public infrastructure, the time in history that we're born, good fortune, the world, nature, evolution, the universe. Um, so, I mean, you can say that all that's God if you want, but that doesn't make God. That's just what you said. Um, then it says prosperity and arrogance. My own power and strength of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. That's easy. I don't even have to comment on that. Not by bread alone. That's in here too. Um, anyway, that might be interesting to talk about. Much of Akev urges Israel to remember its history. And then the commentary says Juneteenth, Holocaust, Labor Day, Pride, Indigenous Peoples Day. So that's a good point. That's something to talk about, maybe. Rain is a reward. Oh, that's good. It'd be fun to talk about rain, actually. That might be really interesting to start there. Questions for discussion on an atheist Torah study. What does gratitude look like without a belief in God? Why do people forget hardship after becoming successful? What stories, what stories should society preserve? Oh, that's good. Can ancient texts contain both profound wisdom and serious moral flaws? Well, obviously, yes. How do we distinguish timeless ethical insight from cultural assumptions of their times? What idols do modern society serve? Wealth, nationalism, celebrity, technology, ideology. And then finally, the computer says a possible atheist takeaway, Parsha Eikev suggests a healthy society requires humility, gratitude, memory, and ethical responsibility. A secular reader can embrace those values while rejecting claims of prosperity or suffering, or direct rewards or punishments. At the same time, the Parsha invites critical engagement with its difficult passages, especially those concerning conquest and divine favoritism, recognizing them as part of humanity's historical struggle to define identity, power, and justice. So that's what the text says there. And let's see. So now we're going to go to a read of the text. And this is, again, this is Parsha Eikev. And I'll be doing my commentary as we read Eikev. Eikev, Moses recounts that events that happened in the desert, including manna, the golden calf, and Aaron's death. Moses describes the blessings of God upon the Israelites if they follow God's law and the punishments they will encounter if they disobey. All right, read the portion. I can. Devarim chapter 7, verse 12. Therefore, observe faithfully the instruction, the laws and the rules with which I charge you today. If you do not obey these rules and observe them carefully, the Eternal, your God, will maintain faithfully for you the covenant made on oath with your fathers. God will favor you and bless you and multiply, blessing your issue from the womb and your produce from the soil, your new grain and wine, oil, the calving of your herd and the lambing of your flock, and the land sworn to your fathers. You shall be blessed above all other people. There shall be no sterile male or female among you or among your livestock. God will ward off from you all sickness and will not bring upon you any of the dreadful diseases of Egypt, about which you know, but will inflict them upon all your enemies. You shall destroy all the peoples that the Eternal your God delivers to you, showing them no pity. You shall not worship their gods, for that would be a snare. Should you say to yourselves, these nations are more numerous than we, how can we dispose them? You need to have no fear. You have to bear in mind what the Eternal did to the Pharaoh and all the Egyptians. Well, anyway, so let's stop there for a minute because it's already super problematic, as the Torah always is. Okay, so it starts, the very first verse is an instruction about obedience. And Eikev is, there's so much in Eikev about the psychological tools of manipulating people into uh, complying and obeying supernatural instructions. So the text is full of instructions from the deity, but there's no negotiation with the deity. I mean, the deity is very clearly in the text a substitution for the king. So it's not any different than, I mean, the king of Assyria used to speak this way to all of their subservient nations and kingdoms. And this is like supposed to be a god that's greater than even that god. So it uses the same language. It's it's about obedience and covenant. I mean, so one of the studies I did this week was with I read commentary on Devarim from a Yale professor of um, biblical studies. And what she kept on saying over and over again that it's like I've always kind of known this, but like Devarim brings it out in sort of a new light. Like the entire point of Devarim is it's the whole point of the religion is really summarized in Devarim. Point of the religion is it's a covenant between the God and the people for the land of Israel if they follow the instructions and the commandments that the God has given them. So that's just essentially Judaism in a nutshell. I mean, from the perspective of the text. Of course, over time, it's become something very different from that. It's really evolved and kind of moved with the time. But I mean, I think the truth is that even at the time that the Torah was redacted, it was also moving within the currents of what was happening in that time too. So there was always this kind of movement within the culture, like a movement of trying to create some sort of meaning out of this material from the past. Now, I mean, put yourself in the mindset of somebody at late Bronze Age, early Iron is, I think Iron is right after Bronze, late Bronze Age, early Iron Age, um, in the Middle East. This is somebody who's probably not literate. They don't know how long they have to live. Uh, they don't really know if they're secure in their land because there's always neighboring nation states. Well, they were really nation states, really. They were um, empires that at any given time might harass you or take your land. And then, of course, you had the sea peoples, these invaders from the sea. And then you also had to worry about the small nation states around you. In addition to making sure that you get enough rain so that you can grow your crops and feed your animals. And then on top of this, you also probably have lots of children, and most of them are dying or dead. And and then you have this one little thing, the story. It's like the people who preserve the story, they're the storytellers, and they have this story, and it's kind of like the one thing you have in your life. And if you're lucky, you also are in a family that really values literacy and study. So, I mean, you don't have Google, you don't have Chat GPT, you don't have the internet, but your brain is kind of the internet. So when you connect with these texts, it basically turns the internet on and it starts buzzing. Anyway, so that's verse number one. And then verse number two, God will favor you and bless you and multiply you. Blessing issue from the womb and your produce from the soil and your grain and wine and oil and the calving of your herd and the lambing of your flock and the land sworn to your fathers to be assigned to you. So, ooh, again, this is redacted text, so it's text that was written in the present, at the time the Torah was written, but it was written about the past. It was written it was written at the present moment that it was written, which I say is the third century BC. But it was written as if it was like, I don't know, when is this? Like 1100 BC or 1600, I don't know, something like that. So it's using past time. And then it makes all these promises. And, these are things that just happen. I mean, they just happen. just because of evolution, the long evolutionary history of the earth. But it says like God will bless you and multiply you. So you'll reproduce. So I mean you're designed to reproduce. The entire point of your existence in some ways is to reproduce like two of you at least. Uh blessing the issue from your womb and the produce from your soil. Now farming was only a few thousand years old at this time. So it was kind of a new innovation. Oh, but by the time this was written, there had been farming for like 8,000 years. And then it says, they know how to make wine and olive oil. So those are just things that people do. I mean, it's nice to say that it's being blessed by God, but people are going to do those regardless of whether or not they know about any God. Now, this one, you shall be blessed above all other people. There shall be no sterile male or female among you or among your livestock. So, I mean, my first thought is, I mean, what's wrong with being sterile? I mean, not everybody has to reproduce. In nature, only a certain percentage of the population reproduces, but you know, everyone is part of the evolutionary mix every generation. So what's the point of that? The point of that is that it's kind of random. I mean, once they're born, a random number of a percentage of the population will reproduce for all sorts of reasons. The nice thing about human beings is that you can choose, and whether or not you want to, and quite frankly, we've reproduced too much on this planet. I mean, there's too many people on the planet, and there's just so much suffering, just needless suffering, and just we're just burning through all of our, ecosystems like so quickly. And in a way, it's because there are just, there's way too many people, and we just don't have any good social controls over the things that are gonna really threat. I mean, think about what really threatens us right now, you know? I mean, and there's no God that's doing anything about it. It's like the two things that are really threatening human existence more than anything are global warming and the mass, sorry, what's the word? The mass reproduction and distribution of weapons of mass destruction. The fact that, at least two countries, maybe three countries have thousands of nuclear weapons, and scores country more have dozens to hundreds of nuclear weapons, means that the planet is in total jeopardy. The whole planet. I mean, a nuclear war between several countries would basically be like getting hit by the meteor 60 million years ago. I mean, it's not quite as bad as that. It wouldn't burn everything alive on the planet Earth, but it would irradiate most of the Earth, make everything sterile and dead. So, anyways, and then it says, God will ward you from all sickness and not bring upon you any of the dreadful diseases about which you know, but will inflict them upon your enemies. So there, what it's saying is, it's basically saying that, well, I don't know, it's kind of, in some ways, in some ways, this is all kind of utopian. I mean, it's utopian, but it's a nice kind of utopian. I mean, but here, this one, you shall be blessed above all other peoples. I mean, you can't criticize it straight out because, I mean, what's wrong with being blessed or whatever that means? But why can't it just be you shall be blessed? Why does it have to be you shall be blessed above all other peoples. I mean, like, aren't the other peoples on earth like just as good and just as legitimate? I mean, there's nothing. I mean, maybe the text, like, it's really a problem. Like, that idea is really a problem. I mean, there's not necessarily a problem. Well, I mean, it's all a problem, but it's a matter of degree. I mean, it's not necessarily a problem that people. I mean, remember when this was written? When this was written, the people who occupied the land were the people writing this text. So they were writing about a land that they already occupied, that they believed they had long-standing historical ties to, the land of Canaan. So, I mean, we don't know exactly what the cultural makeup is of Jews in the maybe fifth 500s or so. But so, I mean, we don't know that they're descended directly from Canaanites. I mean, probably they're just a mix of, peoples who lived in the Levant. And they happen to live in this part of the Levant, in the land of the Maccabees, which became the land written about in the Torah. So, you know, I mean, I think that's a really problematic verse. I don't know what else to say about it. And then the next verse is just nice aspirational thinking. It's like just kind of believing in magic, basically. God will ward you off from sickness and will not bring upon you any of the dreadful diseases of Egypt, about which you know, but will inflict them on all your enemies. So here, what they're talking about is um, this divine person protecting people from disease, which of course we totally know is not true. I mean, it's just diseases in in the ancient world were highly communicable. I mean, it's nice to think that there's some sort of divine thing that's doing it, but it's really not. It's just, I mean, there may have been some cultural practices at the time that were more thought out, but on the other hand, maybe they weren't, because none of these cultures had any understanding of modern medicine. I mean, the Greeks and some of the other Mediterranean cultures did have early forms of medicine, but of course they didn't really know almost anything about how the body actually works, what to do with it. So, I mean, I guess that people who want a God to protect them instead of like their health insurance, or the scientific research of their generation. I mean, of course, they didn't have any of that for most of human history. So I guess that's why I think it's not necessarily a fair question, because it's kind of a question about how we read the world now versus how they read the world 2,300 years ago, when they just really didn't know anything about medicine, about how to help people survive. Now we know how to do it. We just don't want to pay for it for everyone. You shall destroy all the peoples that the eternal your God delivers to you, showing them no pity. You shall not worship their gods, for that would be a snare to shall anyway, so that's one of the worst lines in the Torah portion. You shall destroy all the peoples that the eternal your God delivers to you, showing them no pity. You shall not worship their gods, for that would be a snare to you. So yeah, this is super problematic. So the very first sentence, you shall destroy all the peoples that the eternal your God delivers to you, showing them no pity, which I mean, you just can't do that. And not worship their gods, for that would be a snare. I mean, as an atheist, I guess I don't really care about gods, you know. I mean, I don't really see any difference between one gods and many gods. I mean, I think the reason that the culture as a whole was moving towards the idea of one God was because it was taking the experience of ritual and the experience of kind of a religious devotion to the mystical part of the ritual tradition. And it was basically, I mean, basically what it was doing was it was writing that down. So, you know, they were taking the mystical tradition, they were writing it down, and they, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure why they went to the lengths that they did, though. I don't really know. Let's just read some. You need to have no fear of them, but to bear in mind what the eternal your God did to Pharaoh and all the Egyptians, the wondrous acts you saw, your own eyes, the signs and portents. Thus the eternal your God do to all the peoples you now fear. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that what they're sort of trying to say here is that they're trying to say that these people will have these special privileges if they follow this covenant and if they believe in this God. But like I was saying, I mean, to me, I really see no, I really don't see a difference between one God and many gods. I mean, it's to me, it's the same thing as no God because I mean, you know, a God can't do any of these things. A God can't, uh, you know, do any of the things that are they're claimed here in the text. Uh, I mean, you can say things that are in the text that are vague, you know. I mean, if you want to say that you think God is behind the creation of the universe, then we don't have an answer to that because science doesn't go back that far. It can't go back to time before time began. So I mean it can't do that. So it can't really comment on kind of those sort of it also can't really comment on like supernatural claims because there's just I mean it's the basics. These are like atheism 101. I mean, there's no way that you can prove or disprove a supernatural claim. It's just it's you know, unless you have actual evidence, there's just no way to do it. It doesn't exist. So anyways, you shall destroy all the people that they deliver. So I already commented on that. Yeah, I commented on all that. I commented on medical. Uh, oh, and then it says the Eternal will send a plague against the nations, um, against those who try to resist you, basically. Do not stand in dread of them, for the Eternal your God is in your midst, a great and awesome God. So, I mean, this idea gives these people an extreme amount of confidence in the story. Now, you know, I mean, as long as you think of it as a story, I mean, the point of it is that it's supposed to comfort you. You know, I mean, you're supposed to look at this and say, "Oh, well, this was the religion of my ancestors," and look at what look at the amazing things it does. I mean, it does these things. So, I mean, by making these claims, it reinforces an identification with the text because the text makes like the most extreme kind of claims about what is possible in the world, you know. I mean, none of these things are actually possible, and when something does happen, you can't really attribute a cause to it. It's just something that just happened. So, I mean, it's the same way everything in the universe happens. It just happens. I mean, we can explain the physics behind it, and we can even predict what's going to happen next. I mean, but obviously we couldn't predict our own existence because we weren't around before we existed to predict it. And then it says, the eternal your God will dislodge those people before you little by little. You will not be able to put an end to them at once, else the wild beasts would multiply to hurt you. Ooh, well, that's bad. So here, the I mean, it's very subtle in the text, but I mean, it's also quite obvious. So here, the text is referring to people that are dispossessed of their land as wild beasts. So that's a way of dehumanizing the people that you're assaulting. I mean, I don't see any way to other way to see it here. I mean, it's very clear. The text is very clear. These people are to go into the land to subdue these people, to take their land. I guess probably to kill them or make them into slaves, and all with the blessing of God. So, I mean, the place where it's to me the most real is I just lost my thought there. I'm getting tired. Okay, let's keep on reading. The eternal your God. Let's see. The eternal your God will deliver them up to you, throwing them into utter panic until they are wiped out. The kings will be delivered into your hand. You shall obliterate their name from under the heavens. No one shall stand up to you until you have wiped them out. You shall so you know it's just it's really terrible. I mean, this is basically the same kind of thinking that justified colonialism in Western Europe. You know, I mean, this kind of thinking is just so similar to the kind of thinking that colonial powers had. It's just so similar. It's crazy. You shall consign the images of their gods to the fire. You shall not covet the silver and gold on them, and keep it for yourselves, lest you be ensnared, for that is abhorrent to the eternal your God. So, so I mean, this is like super problematic. I mean, like I said, I mean, as an atheist, I really have no interest in this. I mean, the difference between this God and the gods that these things represent is to me not that significantly different. I mean, this may be a highly sophisticated, highly evolved idea of God, you know, that developed uniquely within this particular culture. Um, or it just could be the cultural beliefs and cultural traditions that this particular group of people evolved. It wasn't better than any other cultural tradition. It was just a cultural tradition that was preserved. And, you know, these people felt kind of like they were the center of the world, just like anybody who writes a religious text imagines for their own religion, is that where it is the center of the world. Anyway, so it's all those things. And then I mean, the thing is that these people, whatever gods they believe in a lot of ways, I mean, especially for the late Bronze Age, early Iron Age, like the ideas that these people have about what God means to them is usually it's very similar because I mean, I mean, this was, I listened to this long study about this last week. I mean, when people are really thinking about gods, what they're really thinking about is things that they need in order to survive, in order to prosper, in order to get ahead, in order to exist. So it's about those things, like the acquisition of the things that are needed to feel safe in a culture, in a society. And that kind of approach toward the world is really kind of universal. I mean, a lot of cultures around the world produce the same sets of similar ethics, about how to treat one another, how to treat the stranger, um, and the value of certain kinds of ideas. So that's kind of my take on the text at that point. It's well, let's go on. But- So I mean, basically, what I'm saying is this idea that these things are idols. I mean, it just to me in a lot of ways it really doesn't make sense because the people who use these idols are kind of wanting mostly the same things that the people who use the monotheist God are wanting. I mean, they're wanting a certain kind of safety and a certain kind of society. And when they have those things, then they feel safe. They feel content. And, they want to do good work for their friend. So let's see. I think I'm probably going to wrap it up here. I'm going to stop a little bit early. Yeah, I think I'll just stop there tonight. Anyway, so that's my commentary tonight for Parsha uh, Eikev. Um, I didn't quite, well, no, maybe I should do a little bit more because there was some other stuff I really wanted to talk. Let me just kind of go through the text here. So again, this is, a lot of this is just the covenant language. It's the idea of, I mean, you can't really understand in a lot of ways. You can't understand the Jewish tradition unless you really understand that it's this, it's carried around in their head as a covenantal relationship. I mean, the same kind of the same kind of expectations that had existed since the fourth millennia BC are here being written down and expressed in this extremely articulate way about what the kind of relationships were between, you know, uh, these these what would you call it? Colonial superpowers of the time, these empires, uh, Middle Eastern empires, East Asian, I mean West Asian empires. I don't know. Anyways, let's read some more. For the eternal your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and sprigs and fountains, issuing from plain and hill, a land of wheat and barley, fruit, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey. So I think I do want to stop there. I really am getting tired and I'm starting to drift. So thanks so much for listening to Atheist Torah Study this week. This is Parsha Eikev, and it's a little bit shorter than usual because I'm just super, super sleepy. But stay tuned. This is really exciting because we're getting so close to the end of this. So I'm really super duper excited. Next week is, let's see, what's Parsha next week? because I'm going to be doing that this week, is Re'eh. It might be Re'eh and Shoftim, or it might just be Re'eh. But I know there's at least a couple of double parshas there. All right, thanks so much. Have a good night.